This past weekend, heaven gained an angel. Her name is Sherry Pollex. On behalf of the entire Checkers or Wreckers family, we send our deepest condolences to Sherry and her family. Today's episode will be dedicated in her memory. Sherry Pollex was 44 years old. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of the Checkers or Wreckers podcast. As always, I am your host, Carter Leonard, and welcome to episode 31 of season 1 of the show, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I will be your host, and I will lead you through pretty much everything that happened this past week regarding the world of NASCAR. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the first segment, and always will be the first segment of the show, that being the weekend recap, ladies and gentlemen. The three National Touring Series of NASCAR took their annual playoff trip to Bristol Motor Speedway. And let's just say it was an eventful weekend nonetheless. Let's start off with the Thursday Night Truck Series race, won by Corey Heim. Obviously that wasn't my pick going into this race, knowing that I probably should have picked him, but this truck race was the typical Bristol truck race. Not a whole lot of chaos, but it wasn't really the most memorable Bristol truck race of all time, if we are being completely honest with ourselves here. But nonetheless, Corey Heim was able to pick up his third win of the year and advance himself into the Championship 4 of the Truck Series playoffs. Now, for any new NASCAR fans out there and are starting to get familiar with the playoff system, you might ask yourself, wait a minute, it's the month of September and the championship race is until November. Like, why is he going to the Championship 4 already? Well, if you haven't been paying attention a lot lately, it's because the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series has lots and lots of off weekends, and quite frankly, I don't like it. I don't like how the schedule is with the Truck Series, but that's neither here nor there. But let's get into Corey Heim for a second, as Heim once again has proven that he is one of the top prospects in the sport. He proved it last year after winning 2 races in his part-time starts with KBM. Now he gets a full-time opportunity to go full-time in the Truck Series with Tricon Garage of the 11. And so far, he has made the most out of it. He is a playoff contender and now a championship contender as we speak. And another thing to prove how good Corey Heim is, and I will pull up his stats real quick, is the fact that Corey Heim is one of the most consistent Truck Series, if not the most consistent Truck Series driver as of right now. Currently, as of right now, Corey Heim's stats look like this: 3 wins, 10 top 5s, 17 top 10s, and 5 stage wins. Although Heim hasn't really been the victory lane multiple times, like let's say for example 6, 7, or 8 wins right now, he has only 3. Heim has shown that winning is not always everything. That's the consistency, and Corey Heim is that consistent driver, and quite frankly, he is Tricon Garage's, I think he's always been Tricon Garage's priority number 1. And congratulations to Corey Heim on getting his third win of the season and 5th career Truck Series win, and he will have to wait 2 months in order to compete for a championship in the Truck Series. But he could chill for that time, but once early November comes, he will prepare to fight for his first ever Truck Series title. Now we get into the Friday night event, and that was the NASCAR Xfinity Series first race of the playoffs, as I got my pick right in back-to-back weeks of predicting Xfinity Series races. That being Justin Allgaier picks up his third win of the year. I keep forgetting that he has won at Daytona. I know he won at Charlotte earlier in the year, but I keep forgetting that Daytona was his second one of the year, because he has been the only junior motorsports car in this entire season to have gone, well, actually besides Sam Mayer, to have Actually, scratch that statement. He's not the only driver that's gone the victory lane for Junior Motorsports, because Sam Mayer has 2 wins. But no, Justin Allgaier had a really fast car, but it wasn't without. I will say in Junior Motorsports, when it comes to Junior Motorsports, it was another Junior Motorsports implosion. There was a wreck between Sam Mayer, Josh Berry, and Brandon Jones that basically took all those drivers out of contention. Sam Mayer made comments about Josh Berry saying that his moves on the track, which even though it was, I don't really remember whose fault it was. It was either between Mayer or Berry that caused the accident, but Mayer made comments about Josh Berry after the race saying that his moves were not Cup-like. And listen, I don't really have an opinion on Sam Mayer, if I'm being completely honest. I think he's a talented race car driver, but when it comes to Xfinity Series drivers or any young prospect, you are like one of the last few people to talk about any Cup experience. When Josh Berry has stepped in the Cup car this year in multiple times, and he's going to a Cup ride next year. So, yeah, Sam, I like you, man, but I guess I do like Sam Mayer. But Sam, I don't really agree with that opinion, man. Like, I don't really that statement's just not, it's not a good look for you. So to say that that's not very Cup-like, which, I mean, if it was Josh Berry's fault, then okay, whatever. But you were like one of the last few people to talk about what Cup experience actually is like. So, yeah, just pump the brakes on that for right now, man. So I don't, not a good look, Sam. But congratulations to Justin Allgaier. He was the last Junior Motorsports car, and he got it done. So, yeah, he was even battling with Daniel Hemrick at the end of the race in that colleague number 10 car. But we'll talk about Daniel Hemrick a little bit more on the show, as he already made his 2024 plans announced, but we'll get to that a little bit later as we finish up the weekend recap. So I got my pick right. Congratulations to Justin Allgaier for getting the win. Now we get into the Cup race, the final race of the round of 16, ladies and gentlemen. And this was probably one of the most anticipated round of 16 elimination races in a while, because you had some names down below the cut line that were pretty noticeable. Some were predictable, but some were very questionable. Like the predictable ones, unfortunately, for any of the fans out there who root for any of these drivers, Michael McDowell and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. basically needed to win in order to have any shot of making the round of 12. Obviously, that did not happen. And then you have Bubba Wallace and, surprisingly, Martin Truex Jr. Yeah, the regular season champion was 7 points below the cut line headed into this race and looked to be eliminated out of the first round. Which, luckily, that did not happen, as Martin Truex Jr. was not necessarily running that well, but was able to gain enough points and have some misfortune happen all around besides him to make it into the round of 12. So I will admit, Martin Truex Jr. gave me a bit of a panic attack before entering this race, because the round of 16, with all due respect, as my air conditioning is starting to come back on, it's going to distort some audio noise that I do not want in the podcast. I apologize. Going into this race, Martin Truex Jr. did not have a very fruitful start to the playoffs. I mean, was struggling at Darlington, literally DNF'd on lap 4 of the race from a tire puncture, even though that wasn't any of its doing. It was, still a shitty way to go out. But then you go into Bristol thinking, no, man, the chances of him getting eliminated in the first round are low, but they're never zero. I mean, and that proved right away, because, this once again goes to show that the playoffs, not just in NASCAR, but in any sports league period, they don't care who you are, what kind of team you are, how many wins you have, how many good athletes you have. If you don't get it done in the playoffs, there is no reward. Close, but no cigar. Well, luckily for Martin Truex fans out there, you could take a big sigh of relief in knowing that he's safe for the round of 12. And all he needed was just a good run at Bristol. But I wouldn't be the only one saying this, but he did give me a panic attack before heading into this race because, well, as people have viewed my Championship 4 predictions, he's in there. So, yeah, I will say that I was a bit nervous heading into that race. But let's get into the winner of the race, which happened to be his own teammate, that being Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has picked up his third win of the season, and he didn't even need to win the race in order to advance into the next round. He was already good and on points along with William Byron in the 24 Hendrick Motorsports Chevy. But Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing in that night were very, very dominant. But only one of them was going to walk away with the win, and it happened to be the driver of the number 11 car, that being Denny Hamlin. And what a week it's been for Denny Hamlin. I mean, think about it. I mean, the last race before this one, which was Sunday, his car goes to victory lane, even though it was supposed to be his win with only a certain amount of laps to go. Tyler Reddick, his driver, made it all better when Denny Hamlin was knocked out of contention to win, and his car went to victory lane. And then not even a week, almost a week later, Denny Hamlin goes to victory lane. So it's been a big week for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, and for both Joe Gibbs Racing and 2311 Racing. I mean, Toyota is on cloud 9 right now when it comes to being good as of right now. I mean, Toyota, I'm going to make a controversial statement. Besides Hendrick Motorsports, I think Toyota is probably the most dominant manufacturer in NASCAR as of this point in the season, because throughout the season, they have statistically, they have gotten better. More trips to victory lane, whether it's, Denny Hamlin winning races, Martin Truex Jr. winning races. Christopher Bell, while he has won a race this year, there's been some slight inconsistencies, but, he's had speed. Ty Gibbs, he's done his thing in his rookie season, being very impressive. Bubba Wallace, he made it into the playoffs. Tyler Reddick, he's won, and he's getting that consistency back, even though there's been a few bumps in the road. Regardless, all 6 of those Toyota cars have been fast this year. There's been at least one race where, all those cars that I had mentioned were probably all up inside the top 10. And if they weren't, then they were pretty darn close. So, but going back to Denny Hamlin for a second, after the race, which is his 51st career win of his, long-term career, he embraced the hate. Obviously, Denny Hamlin is not one of the most liked drivers in all of the garage area. We've seen it this year. Him being booed at Kansas after the win, him being booed at Pocono after the win, now he's being booed at Bristol after the win. Then, Denny Hamlin came back with the biggest clapback of all time, acknowledging the boos and saying, "Hey, I beat your favorite driver." "Which one?" asks Marty Snyder. "All of them." For those who are watching this show, you may not be the biggest Denny Hamlin fan out there, but once this guy eventually hangs up the helmet and steps away from full-time competition, you're going to miss him. You may not believe me as of right now. You might hate Denny Hamlin more than any other driver in the garage as of right now. But, he plays the villain role real well. And I think he has taken the villain role away from Kyle Busch, because it's like Dale Jr. says, Kyle Busch goes to drive for Richard Childress in the Chevrolet. That equals all is forgiven. But with Denny Hamlin, it's not all that. Obviously, Denny Hamlin has been hated before, this season, obviously. And I don't know if it's just the fact that, he has a podcast and it boosts, his somewhat of an ego, or, boosts the fact that he is, one of the most outspoken drivers out there when it comes to anything, good or bad. But, Denny Hamlin is a product that is needed in NASCAR, and quite frankly, I'm glad that he's here. I'm glad that he is still very competitive at the age he is. He's 43 years old as of right now. Denny has just been, he's a future Hall of Famer, whether you like it or not. Denny Hamlin is a future Hall of Famer, and, it's been like that for the longest time. So congratulations to Denny Hamlin. and the 11th team for Joe Gibbs Racing after yet another win this season, and he is officially locked into the round of 12 of the playoffs. But also one thing I wanted to mention about Denny Hamlin real quick is the fact that how good he's been as of late, because a lot of people after this Bristol win are starting to question themselves on if this is actually the year. Now, I know a lot of people have always asked this question about, is this finally the year that Denny Hamlin's going to make the playoffs? This, and that. Is this going to be, is this truly it? We ask ourselves this question year after year after year. But a lot of people are starting to think that this year might be a little bit different because if you ask me, now personally, if you ask me, I think the championship as of right now is a toss-up between, 4 drivers. I mean, obviously, because, we all know who those 4 drivers are. But I think Denny Hamlin's confidence as of right now has been the highest I have seen in years. Now, let's take a look at last year's Denny Hamlin and this year's Denny Hamlin. Obviously, Denny Hamlin made 2 trips to victory lane last year, but he actually wasn't really that consistent all that well. He didn't really have that great of a season and was close to making it to the championship 4 until the infamous Hail Melon thing happened. But this year, he has 1 more win than he's usually had. He has more top 5s. He has more top 10s. And there is a very good possibility. Now, this has always been a very good possibility that I've realized over the course of these first 3 races of the playoffs. Denny Hamlin could have swept the round of 16 if luck went his way. He was dominating at Darlington. Literally had the fastest car that night. And had he not done the... Well, it wasn't really his fault. Had that bad pit stop not happened, then, there's a good possibility that he would have won Darlington. He was close to winning at Kansas. Instead, one of his cars went to victory lane. And then third time was the charm, and he got it done at Bristol. So, Denny Hamlin was technically lights out in the round of 16. Like, he was fast. And obviously, the finishes that he gained from all those 3 races, those 2 races besides him winning at Bristol, obviously they're not going to reflect on that. But for anybody who was paying attention closely to those races, they knew how fast the 11 team was. And, again, I don't know, like I said, the championship as of right now is a toss-up between 4 drivers in my mind. But I would not be surprised, if this might actually be Denny's year. Now, I don't want to jinx him. I don't want to, predict anything. But here's my thing. For all the people who are hating on Denny Hamlin out there simply because, he does not have a title, I will say this. If he gets it done this year, 2023, the year of our Lord, if he gets it done and he finally adds that championship to his resume, we all got to shut the hell up. The no championship jokes, all the playoff choking memes, those will be over immediately. Effective immediately. ASAP. If he can get this done this year, I will... Golf claps. I will be very impressed. Because, Denny Hamlin pretty much has everything in NASCAR. I mean, he has over 50 career wins, 3 Daytona 500 wins, Coke 600 winner, a Southern 500 winner. This dude has done everything except for one thing, and that is win an actual championship. He just wants one. Just one on his resume, dude. He just wants one on his resume. And you know what? I think Denny's confidence has been more higher than ever this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the year. Excuse me, I had to crack my back for a second. But yeah, once again, congratulations to Denny Hamlin in the number 11 team. And with all that being said, that will do it for the weekend recap, and the Denny Hamlin is officially the new villain of NASCAR kind of talk. So, yeah. But with that being said, we have to talk about the drivers who do not make the round of 16 and evaluate their seasons real quick. And those drivers who did not make the round of 16 are Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, Kevin Harvick, and the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion himself, Joey Logano. Let's go driver by... whoops. Knocked my air filter out of the way. Let's go by driver, and let's evaluate their seasons real quick. Starting off, let's go with the weakest link, and I will say Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will go first. JTG Doherty makes the playoffs for the first time in almost 10 years with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. after pulling out the amazing upset in the 2023 Daytona 500. However, besides all that, it wasn't necessarily the biggest and brightest season when it comes to other teams in the garage. But for JTG Doherty standards, it was, quite frankly, their best season that they have ever had. They didn't ask for a lot. Not a whole lot was expected out of them, but I think they exceeded expectations just a tiny bit, if I'm being completely honest with you. And unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. Ricky Stenhouse would have had to win Bristol in order to get himself into the second round. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Same goes for Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell had a very impressive season. He won at the Indy Road Course in order to lock himself into the playoffs. And he actually did have a good run at Bristol, finishing sixth. He did get a top 10 finish at Bristol, but the damage that was playoff drama for the 34 team, even though it wasn't necessarily drama, it was more just of, running and how the average finish is for the 34 team. The damage had already been done. And, at least he ended off his playoff run with a very high note, that being at a top 10 finish for Michael McDowell. Hopefully we see him in the playoffs again next year, because Michael McDowell, he's always been a very exciting driver to watch. He's the underdog of the sport. So yeah, again, Michael McDowell, unfortunate he couldn't make it farther in the playoffs, but there's always next year. Same for Ricky Stenhouse. Then you have Kevin Harvick, and quite frankly, this was probably the most disappointed I had ever felt about a playoff elimination in my life, more than any Kyle Busch playoff elimination, because it's Kevin Harvick's final year. He wants to see if he can make one more run to a championship before he retires, and, even try to get the victory lane. There's been 2 times this year where Kevin Harvick was so close to getting in the victory lane. Phoenix earlier in the spring, he had that race won had it not been for the Harrison Burton spin. And the first race of the round of 16 at Darlington, had Tyler Reddick not made the goofy move coming out of 4 and brain check Ryan Newman, and Kevin Harvick pitting under caution. Had that not happened, it's very well likely that we could be talking about Kevin Harvick being in the round of 12 right now. And yeah, even my own prediction of Kevin Harvick making the round of 12 aged very, very poorly. I got half of my round of 16 eliminations wrong, so that's very unfortunate. But hey, at least I'm not like Kyle Petty, who got all 4 wrong. If you know, you know. But as for Kevin Harvick, this is a tough pill to swallow. Very bitter way to end, not his season. I mean, he'll still run races, but to end his playoff season simply because, the team was just not running good at all. And then again, that's Stewart-Haas Racing for you, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to do that to you. So unfortunate for Kevin Harvick, but hopefully he could get the victory lane one last time before, he eventually calls it a career. I would hate to see Kevin Harvick go winless in his final season. But it looks like Kevin Harvick will only walk away with 1 championship to his name. But that's something that a lot of Hall of Fame drivers cannot say they have ever had. So yeah, unfortunate for every Kevin Harvick fan out there. Then the driver who caught me by surprise with his round of 16 elimination, Joey Logano. And this wasn't his fault necessarily. While the 22 team wasn't one of the fastest teams in the garage area there in Bristol, they were still at a pretty decent points advantage before the eventual wreck. That being that Corey LaJoie spun down the back straightaway, tapped the inside wall, and sent back up the track, and Joey Logano had absolutely no place to go and got tagged by the 7, causing a multi-car wreck in turn 3. And that ended Joey Logano's playoff hopes entirely. The defending NASCAR Cup champion can't go off to Phoenix this year and defend his title. So, this means that no matter what happens, we are guaranteed a new champion and not a back-to-back one. I've said it multiple times, and I will say it again. Joey Logano plus odd number years equals no bueno. But unfortunately, I feel bad for every single Joey Logano fan out there because I had him, going farther than I expected. I had him, I think I had him at least making the round of 8, I believe. I don't know. I would have to go and check back like my the playoff prediction video that I uploaded. But yeah, this was a very bitter end to Joey Logano's championship run this year. But it's like Jeff Burns set up in the broadcast booth. This team is going to be a problem next year. And quite frankly, I think Joey Logano is going to be out for blood next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he walks away with the title next year, because I think that this is, although he got the title last year, it was the second Cup Series title, you never count Joey Logano out when, in clutch moments or anything like that. So, yeah, unfortunate for Joey Logano and how he had to end his playoff run. Of course, it was none of his own doing. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for the playoff eliminations. And I will keep doing those for every round of drivers that get eliminated from the playoffs. Now, we have some 2024 schedule updates, ladies and gentlemen, and that regards to Bristol once again. Bristol Dirt is no more, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, the 2 Bristol dates next year will both be on the concrete, as the iconic Food City 500 will make its return to 2024. There's obviously a lot of speculation on if Bristol Dirt will return next year. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And it only took 3 years for the Bristol Dirt Race to get right. 2021 was a shit show. 2022 was a lot better and had an incredible finish to go along with it. 2023, it felt like an actual dirt race. There wasn't a whole lot of drama. There wasn't a whole lot of, oddness and, crappiness out of it. It felt like an actual dirt race, and it worked well. However, some fans loved it, some fans don't. I was on the neutral side of it. I did think that it was pretty cool to see NASCAR Cup cars on dirt for once in my lifetime. I hope that the Cup cars go back on dirt somewhere else. Who knows what the 2024 schedule has planned, which I will talk about as a whole in a minute here. But yeah, the fact that Bristol, is going back to 2 concrete dates, really kind of interests me, because that's the main reason why Bristol Dirt even became a thing. Because before the 2021 season and before 2020, because the spring day didn't have any fans in the stands, the Bristol spring race on regular concrete had horrible attendance numbers. I don't know if it was because of the chilly weather or because I don't know what it was, but the attendance for that race was absolutely horrendous. Compared to the night race, it is literally there isn't even a comparison. If I'm being completely honest with you, there isn't even a comparison. And so when I first heard this decision, I kind of asked myself this question. Okay, well, and this is how I feel about the Brickyard 400. This could either go really, really good, or it could go like the way it normally did. Now, in Bristol's case, it's not so much as for the racing product, but it's more of our fans going to pack the stands like the Bristol night race will. So it'll be very interesting to see. I like seeing the Food City 500. Granted, it's not a crown jewel race, but, you get that brief hit of nostalgia, if you grew up in like the early 2010s to, the late 2010s and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's a very interesting thing to see for, Bristol to be back on concrete for both races. So I'm very interested to see how that happens. Now, there isn't a specific date for that spring race. It could be on the Easter. It could not be. It could be a summer race for all we know. because a lot of the 2024 schedule is unplanned as of right now. And we also had some more news coming out of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin regarding Road America, and it announced that Road America will not host any NASCAR sanctioned event in 2024. This absolutely mind boggles me because I remembered right around this time last year when the 2021 schedule was announced, and they announced that the Cup cars and Xfinity cars, as they would normally do, would go to Road America for the first time in over 60 years. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. However, after 2 seasons, the Cup Series decided not to return for the 2023 season after it moved to the Chicago Street Course for the July 4th weekend. But it wasn't all doom and gloom, considering that the Xfinity Series has always been there, and fans will show up for that event. But now for 2024, there isn't any sanctioned NASCAR event there. I don't know the particular reason why. I like Road America. It's not the most exciting short track out there. Not short track. It's not the most exciting road course out there compared to other tracks on the schedule. But it is very disappointing to see that it's such a very unique track. It's one of the longest. It's the longest road course on the schedule currently. But the fact that it's not going to be on the schedule next year really kind of stings. So yeah, I feel sorry for every Road America fan out there. And if you're season ticket holders, then I am very, very sorry. So that's very unfortunate. But let's get into the 2024 schedule as a whole. It is, as of this recording, you're going to be watching this episode or listening into this episode on the 22nd of September, which is a Friday of 2023. Today is the 21st as of this recording. And as of right now, the 2024 schedule has not been released. Normally right around this time, from late August to early to mid-September, the 2024 schedule would already be released and already out to the public, and we would already be expecting of what we're getting next year. However, that has not been the case. And quite frankly, that's kind of worrying. I don't know what the delays are specifically, what setbacks there are. There's a lot of rumors going around, of what's going to be the All-Star race, the Easter day, as I mentioned earlier, is the Brickyard 400 going to come back, which is most likely going to be most likely going to happen. The only confirmed things that we know of the 2024 schedule are these. The LA Clash announced, or the LA Coliseum announced that the Busch Light Clash will be at the LA Coliseum once again for the third year in a row in 2024, February 4th of 2024. The Daytona 500 will once again be on President's Day weekend, so not a big shocker there. But then we have the championship finale being at Phoenix, so that was already confirmed like a while back. But other than that, we don't know anything else about the 2024 schedule as of right now. According to Bob Pockrass, he has been saying that, it's going to be coming out in the coming weeks, but then it gets delayed to, a few more weeks. So we really have to ask ourselves, what's been going on behind the scenes? And there's actually a lot of things going on with NASCAR as of right now, because there's 3 major things that are happening behind the scenes, and yet none of them seem to have any sort of a hint towards a big conclusion anytime soon. One of them is the schedule, 2 of them is the new charter agreement, and 3 is the new TV rights deal. 3 major things. I would say the schedule is the least worrisome as of right now. Granted, it's taking longer than expected, but I think NASCAR will get that done, obviously, eventually. But as for the 2 other things, the charter, the new charter agreement past 2024 and the new TV rights deal past 2024 are still up in the air. We're literally coming down to the end of September into October. And literally, I got a notification on my phone saying that the first day of autumn is this Saturday. So, we're literally about to head into fall, ladies and gentlemen, and we still don't have answers for any of these 3 major questions on what's going to happen. I still have faith in NASCAR that they're still trying everything to get this done, but it's just been, it's been I mean, Denny Hamlin said it on Actions Detrimental this week that it's been trying times for the sport, to get everything done, And I was watching Eric Estep's video. I know I reference Eric Estep a lot in the podcast, but hey, huge shout out to him. He said that what NASCAR's doing right now is like a high school or college student trying to finish up their essays on like the last day of school. And quite frankly, that depiction is pretty accurate, because I bet NASCAR was going into the season hoping that everything was going to get done, and we wouldn't have to worry about a thing. We could just all sit back, relax, and chill. No, unfortunately, no. That's not been the case, unfortunately. I can't really say much on, when I think the schedule is going to be released, because God only knows, as well as the whole the new charter agreement and the whole, the TV deal that's going to be coming up soon. Only God knows when that's going to be completed. But I'm not saying the NASCAR is not trying or anything like that. I'm not saying they're not putting any effort towards it, but this is difficult, man. It's weird that we're waiting this long to still get an answer from it. So, I was worried about this stuff back in, March and April and all that stuff, like when all the split rumors were coming up, and, I was just like, okay, well, it's starting to get a little bit more concerning, but I think, by, August and September, I think we're going to figure this out. No, we still have not figured this out. We are not close to anything done yet. The schedule, I'm sure, eventually will get done. I mean, that's almost a guarantee. I don't know when. I don't know what's holding them up. I don't know what's going on, what's rumors. There's been rumors saying that Texas might move their Texas might move their fall date to the spring, but then again, that's just rumors, And Ticketmaster possibly leaked Las Vegas's first race of the year as the first race of March for next year. But then again, we don't know if that's confirmed. I would like to hear from the official word of NASCAR themselves on when that schedule will come out. But it's very tedious as of right now if you're a NASCAR fan looking at this, because three main issues as of this current point. One being easy, the two others not being so much, Obviously, I'm not saying making a schedule is easy, but, at least we know that process is eventually going to get finished, because, it has to. If you want to, have a schedule for next year, it has to. You know what I mean? If you want to have races next year, it has to happen. But, yeah, it's just been tedious time for NASCAR, and, it's not been great. It's not been great. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for that part of the show. We go from kind of issue-y topics to some silly season news, ladies and gentlemen. That's some of the biggest silly season questions that we have had for pretty much the entire season, well, except for when Justin Haley announced his Rick Ware racing, stint starting next year. The past few weeks to even a month, we've asked ourselves these questions. The first question is, who will drive the 31 car for Colleague Racing next year? Well, that announcement was made this past week as Daniel Hemrick announced that he will be driving the 31 car for Colleague Racing next year. Obviously, it's not the most groundbreaking driver out there. However, Daniel Hemrick has sponsorship. He has, he brings in a lot of funding for Colleague Racing. So, I'm sure that, obviously Colleague Racing had their hands tied in this, and, they didn't really have a whole lot of options left. I mean, Chandler Smith is there, but then again, he's not ready. Neither is any other Chevy driver that I could think of that was, I always had the impression that when Justin Haley announced his departure that Austin Hill was going to be the man for Colleague Racing, but That was unfortunately not the case, as he is staying with RCR, which is totally fine. I'm totally cool with that. But congrats to Daniel Hamrick on getting another Cup Series opportunity. He was the 2019 Cup Series Rookie of the Year, obviously the 2021 Xfinity Series champion. He even had a good run at Bristol in the Xfinity race. I think he finished like second possibly to Justin Allgaier. So yeah, it was a good race for him. But good luck to Colleague Racing and Daniel Hamrick for the 2024 season and for the rest of his playoff run in the Xfinity Series playoffs. Then we get into the second biggest question, and it was probably the biggest question all year. Where was Zane Smith gonna go next year? We all speculated on whether or not Zane Smith was gonna go Cup racing next year, which was we all figured that the answer was yes, but the question always was where exactly? Stewart Haas Racing, the Wood Brothers, um, RFK, Front Row Motorsports. Um, we always, we asked ourselves this question week by week, oh, well, Zane's going to go to the 10. No, Zane's going to go to the 21. No, somehow, they're going to get Todd Gillen out the C and they're going to put Zane in the 38. But when Front Row Motorsports announced that they were going to stick with the same two drivers since, that they've always used, Zane Smith had to look elsewhere. Obviously, the driver for the 38 truck for Front Row Motorsports, looking to seek his back-to-back truck series title, which is great for him. But we all asked ourselves this question on if, what team was he going to drive from the Cup Series? Well, during Saturday's events before the Cup Series race, that question was answered as Zane Smith announced that he signed a multi-year deal with Team Trackhouse Racing. And this was rumored by Bob Pocker saying that he talked with Trackhouse Racing, but they would have had to purchase a third charter for him. But Justin Marks is an innovator when it counts, and I love the ideologies of Justin Marks and what he's done to Trackhouse Racing personally as a fan because he built that team from the ground up and he's made them into a championship contending team. And now they're going to add a future superstar to their lineup. Hell, I mean, it's even been a big week for Trackhouse as well because they announced, after I recorded the podcast episode last week, they officially announced that Shane Van Gisbergen has signed a wide range variety deal with Trackhouse to run select races in trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. Obviously, he'll be running races, I would assume, in the 91 for Trackhouse, Xfinity, trucks. I would assume the truck series he would drive for Nice, Xfinity, maybe Colleague, I don't know. But, he has that wide range variety deal with Trackhouse, and he could possibly go full-time in 2025 to see that if he actually really likes it. But not only that, they're also building up on their future even more as they announced that they signed Zane Smith to a multi-year deal. However, he will not exactly be driving for that team next year because during that same Saturday afternoon, it was announced that Spire Motorsports bought Live Fast Racing's charter for $40 million. Yeah, I'm not joking either. A team bought a charter. When in this day and age where charters are very, very expensive, Spire Motorsports stepped up to the plate and said, you know what? Give me that and I'll give you $40 million. But now we have to ask ourselves, why Spire exactly? Well, it's pretty simple. And that one word is Gamebridge. As we all know, Gamebridge and Spire Motorsports have started this very, very big partnership. And quite frankly, that poured in a lot of money to that team. Spire Motorsports, we always thought before this next-gen era, before, the Corey LaJoie era, we always thought to ourselves, this team, they're not going to be remembered within the next 15 years or anything like that. But Spire Motorsports is proving everybody wrong. And I wouldn't say they're playing chess, not checkers, but they're making some big moves. Corey LaJoie announced that he has signed a multi-year deal with the team to stay there. There's rumors saying that Carson Hocevar, very talented Truck Series driver, is going to be in the 77 next year. And then they purchased a third charter for that team. And they are going to put Zane Smith in that third full-time car because Trackhouse will lease Zane Smith to Spire Motorsports before Trackhouse will build him a third team, an in-house car third team for the 2025 season. So a lot of people ask, well, why didn't Trackhouse buy the charter? Well, they just simply weren't ready. According to Justin Marks, they need more time to develop that third team for Zane Smith, and they are going to spend the remainder of 2023 and the whole entirety of 2024 to make sure that that deal gets done and that Zane Smith will be the third full-time car for Trackhouse in 2025. So Zane Smith is racing on Sundays next year, and we all saw the press conference from him, and we all saw how emotional he was because, he didn't know if he was going to have a major future in the sport, which we all know he did, but the question was always, where is this guy going to go? Someone is going to, someone has to snatch this guy up. Like, he is one of the most talented prospects in NASCAR as of right now. And he was originally a Chevy driver. He drove for GMS in the Truck Series, making back-to-back Championship 4 appearances in those seasons. And then he goes off to Front Row Motorsports a year later in 2022. He wins the Truck Series title, and he's looking to do the same as of this current point with 2 wins already so far this year for him. But looking towards the future for Zane Smith, this guy is a future superstar. I am very excited for him. I've always been a big Zane Smith guy. Trackhouse, once again, got themselves a really good talent. And I think, I don't know who's going to be in the 3-car lineup, but look at the roster that Trackhouse has. You have Ross Chastain, one of the, has risen to become a big superstar in the sport, but not everything needs to be a Game 7 moment for him. You have Daniel Suarez, who was the original driver for Trackhouse Racing. Not the flashiest guy in the field, but always been a solid and serviceable driver for that team. You have Shane Van Gisbergen. Enough said. And then you have Zane Smith, the top prospect in this sport. And Trackhouse Racing just snatched them up. I talked about this with my dad earlier today. Although the announcement was over almost a week ago, we never really sat down and really talked about how good this move was. And he just simply said, Trackhouse Racing is going to be good for years to come. And, he's right. I think, that's no lie. I mean, Trackhouse Racing is going to win a championship in this decade. I'm going to call it now, because that lineup, I don't know if they're only going to be a 3-car to 4-car team eventually, but, those lineup of drivers that I just mentioned are just, that's just an amazing lineup. And Justin Marks even said that third Spire car could be used for, a potential future Trackhouse driver. You never know. Like some driver who's like really good in like the Xfinity or Truck Series and is getting, wants to go to Cup Series, and is a very talented prospect. Trackhouse Racing could look at them and say, yeah, this is the guy. This is the guy we want. So, yeah, congratulations to Zane Smith on getting the opportunity of a lifetime to go Cup racing. This is going to be, I'm very interested to see how his career is going to go because Zane Smith, like I said, is a future superstar of the sport. The future of NASCAR is here. You have Ty Gibbs, Zane Smith, Carson Hocevar, and then you have other guys in the lower divisions. You have Sammy Smith, Corey Heim. I'll even throw Lane Riggs in there. Jade Avedissian, who is a very talented female dirt racer out there. The future of NASCAR is on the way. And we cannot ignore that. So, yeah. But other than that, congratulations to Zane Smith on the opportunity of a lifetime. Good luck the rest of the season. Go get that second Truck Series championship. And I can't wait to see this dude race on Sundays next year. But with that being said, that'll do it for the good side of the whole Zane Smith deal. The bad side with the deal is with Ford. Ford had their most looked at top prospect in years for Zane Smith. They plucked up Zane Smith from Chevy, has had him for the past 2 seasons, and then Chevy just said, hippity hoppity, I will gladly get back my property. So, yeah. But in all seriousness, though, Ford has literally no one in the prospect pipeline as of right now when it comes to the future of certain teams. Stuart Haas Racing. Although they signed Josh Berry, the 10 car is still up for grabs. Eric Almirola, as we have mentioned for the past few weeks, it's likely that he's going to be retiring, and Smithfield will leave as well. So that team needs a driver, and it needs funding like immediately. So we all asked ourselves, what does Ford have left that they could use down in the in the lower divisions? Obviously, in the Xfinity Series, you have Cole Custer and Riley Herbst. Cole Custer, I mean, if he could get back to, a really, really consistent driver, which he's an Xfinity Series playoff driver this year, as we predicted he would be, he could be back up in the Cup Series before we know it, but, it's only a matter of time. Riley Herbst, he's kind of the same thing. Riley Herbst has had a better season in the Xfinity Series that he's had in a while. But then again, he's not even visited victory lane yet, and he failed to make the playoffs this year to Parker Kligerman. So, I don't know if that's a good option. He has funding from Monster Energy, but then again, I don't know if that's going to be the right answer. Maybe they might sign him, but I don't know. I actually don't know. And then you have, then you look at the Truck Series, and there's more drivers down there besides two. You have Ben Rhodes, who I would consider as a truck lifer, even though he's pretty young for most truck lifer standards. This is his 8th full-time season in the Truck Series. He is the 2021 Truck Series champion. I don't know if he wants to go Cup racing next year. I highly doubt that. I think he and Thor Sport have a really great relationship as of right now. Yeah, that's Ben Rhodes for you. Then you have Ty Majeski, who is a very talented short track driver who is Ben Rhodes' teammate. Made the championship for last year in his first season with Thor Sport Racing, and is looking to do the same, even though he kind of got caught for cheating at Milwaukee and IRP. But besides all that, Ty Majeski is a very talented and serviceable driver for your team and can get a lot out of what he has. And then there's the 5th and final prospect that they have, and it's probably the most infamous one out there, and that is Hailie Deegan. While Hailie Deegan has tons of popularity, like tons of, social media, outbursts, this, and that, Hailie Deegan is definitely a marketable driver. Statistically wise, it's a very different story. Hailie Deegan has not put up the Truck Series, numbers that, a lot of people really anticipated that she would have, like back in 2019 when the Hailie Deegan hype was absolutely real. But then it died down each and every year. 2021 to 2023 with David Gilliland Racing, it has not been fruitful at all for her. And then she goes to Thor Sport the following year, and we all expected, okay, I think this is the year where it's put up or shut up time for Hailie Deegan, because there's no more excuses. She's with a championship organization. She's with with an experienced team. And she has not gotten it done. She did not make the playoffs, obviously, and two of the 4 Thor Sport drivers have wins. And those were the 2 other drivers I just mentioned in the Truck Series. Hailie Deegan needs to really step it up performance-wise. A lot of people will make the argument saying that she would do a lot better in the Xfinity Series. Well, be that as it may, if we're looking at her for a brand and marketability standpoint to put her in one of the seats, all right, go for it. But, we want talent in those seats. And quite frankly, Hailie Deegan has not shown all of that. I would love to see Haley Deegan succeed. I would love to see any female succeed in any form of auto racing, but as of right now, Haley Deegan has quite frankly disappointed us. And, while I wasn't really the hypiest of hype men when it came to Haley Deegan in the 2019 2020 era, I always really felt confident enough for her that she might be something special. She might be a very, very solid driver that might get wins in the future. And unfortunately, that has not happened at all. And quite frankly, it's very disappointing. But yeah, going back to Ford, they don't have a lot of options. What they would have to do in order to really fill their seats with a really good driver is snatch one of the free agents, which, quite frankly, there is none right now. There is not a lot of really talented and brings a lot of funding to a team drivers out there. A lot of people say, "Oh, what about Matt DiBenedetto?" But then again, he doesn't have a lot of funding. Which, by the way, I'll bring up Matt DiBenedetto in a second because Rackley Ward made an announcement yesterday regarding his future with the team. But yeah, Ford is just, I wouldn't say they're screwed as of right now, but they are very limited on options. There's some, but compared to other manufacturers who have tons and tons of prospects, I mean, Chevy has a lot of prospects. You have Sam Mayer, Raja Karuth, Luke Fenhouse, Connor Zillich, who's another Chevy prospect, that's really good right now. Austin Hill, even though he's getting kind of older, he's not one of the younger prospects, but then again, he's still there. There's some prospects down there that Chevy has. Then you have Toyota, which Toyota always has a lot of prospects. And we always make fun of Toyota for losing prospects year after year, but then again, they always have backups to go to. Ford, they'll lose a prospects, and all of a sudden it's panic because they don't have anyone down there. Ford really needs to find a way to get more development drivers in there because several years ago they had a ton of prospects. A lot of guys like Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Ty Majeski. All those guys were. Bubba Wallace, all those guys that I just mentioned, they're they all won, races. They all came from the Ford pipeline and all that stuff like that. And now today, Ford's pipeline of prospects is just completely unrecognizable. And it's very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how things change later on down the line for them. But we have some more news coming out of the Truck Series, and it regards Rackley War and Matt DiBenedetto. It was announced a few weeks ago that Matt DiBenedetto would not return to Rackley War for the 2024 season as he wanted to pursue other things with the team. And that was actually kind of a bit of a disappointing thing. I'm not a Matt DiBenedetto fan personally, but the fact that he made the playoffs with the team this year compared to what he did last year, it was a big improvement. And I'm surprised that he didn't want to return. I think, he probably saw other options out there. I don't know what those options are as of right now that he saw and he wanted to take advantage of and just said, "Hey, Rackley, I'm not going to return next year." So I was a little bit disappointed by that, considering that a good thing going. But Rackley Ward came out of left field as of the past couple days and announced that Matt DiBenedetto will not complete the 2024 season with the team. Obviously, they did make the playoffs, but it was a first-round elimination for the team out of the round of 10. So you just wanted to ride out the rest of the 3 races and just hope for the best. But Rackley Ward saw it differently as of late, as the last 3 races are going to be unfilled for the 25 team. This is actually really shocking because, I would have at least liked to see Matt DiBenedetto finish out the season strong with the team because, that's typically what a driver would do. But Matt DiBenedetto has had a very interesting history of not staying with not staying with teams for a good amount of time. There's a time where he was with Go Fast Racing. The one season where he went to Levine Family Racing and just, completely impressed everyone. He was, he had a really good season that year. But then you had his time with the Woodbros from 2020 to 2021, where he nearly won a few races, and he got demoted back down to the Truck Series, and he finally won a race that year in 2022. And then after the 2023 season, he just leaves. Like, there has not been a good majority of time where Matt DiBenedetto has spent with a team for more than 2 years. Like, and it's actually kind of sad because, although he's not the most talented driver in the whole entire garage area, he has some talent. I wouldn't say brings a lot of funding with him necessarily, but he's a solid driver for the most part. He can get it done. He can run consistently. He's a very serviceable driver, and I'm kind of sad that he's not going to be able to finish out the season. So we have to ask ourselves this question on who is going to run the final 3 races of the season for Matt DiBenedetto, and who's going to replace the 25 for 2024 and beyond. Me personally, I think that the driver who I think should replace DiBenedetto for the last 3 races of the season, and he's actually impressed me with his Truck Series starts and is actually going to make his first Xfinity Series start this year, Lane Riggs. I've been very impressed by watching Lane Riggs in his few starts here and there in the Truck Series. Last year he made some starts with Hallmark Friesen Racing, got a top 10, even qualified on the outside pole in the season finale. This year he's had multiple starts with multiple teams. He had a start with Tricon Garage earlier in the year at Atlanta, didn't work out. Had a truck start with Yuns Motorsports in Nashville, didn't work out. And then he had probably his best opportunity in the truck in a while, and that is the Spire 7 truck, which has been notorious for being fast the past 2 seasons it's been in the Truck Series, regardless of who's driving it. And Lane Riggs took that truck at IRP, which is where he got his first Truck Series start, and finished up inside the top 5. And now Lane Riggs, as of this weekend, is getting some NASCAR Xfinity Series starts for Colleague Racing, one of the major teams in that series. But obviously, a lot of people ask, well, why does Lane Riggs, for how solid and how impressive he is for, not running a full-time schedule, why doesn't he run full-time? Well, it's mainly because that he's not one of the major more funded drivers out there compared to like other drivers out there. You know what I mean? So I would like to see Lane get some more funding, get some sponsors' attention, because no matter what series, preferably I would like to see him start in the Truck Series. I would like to see him, run a full-time season, because if he were, he would definitely be a dangerous, threat to a lot of teams out there, because, he's been impressive in his starts. But why do I choose Lane Riggs? I mean, why not? Give him some more experience. You would love to have Lane Riggs in one of your rides. So, if I had to pick one driver in particular that I want to see drive in the 25 for the rest of the year, I would like to see Lane Riggs do it, because, I think that would be a solid choice. But as for Rackley War's replacement in the future, I would say it's probably this one kid named Dawson Sutton, who is the son of the owner of Rackley Roofing, I believe. He's won some late model races, so Dawson Sutton, I believe, he'll be turning 18 soon. So, but Matt DiBenedetto's future and Rackley War's future are definitely both up in the air. Rackley War seems to have some replacements in the lineup, but Matt DiBenedetto, we don't know what he's doing next year. I highly doubt that he's probably going to be in the Cup Series next year. Xfinity Series, I could definitely see, as well as trucks. He might find another Truck Series team and just stay put there. But DiBenedetto's future, as of right now, is definitely in limbo. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for that topic of the show, ladies and gentlemen. And then we get into the final topic of the show, and is the last, and always will be the last topic, and that is race picks, ladies and gentlemen. It is the start of the round of 12 for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and it goes to Texas Motor Speedway. See how there's no applause, even though we don't have applause in the show, but if we did, no one would be happy at the sight or sound of Texas Motor Speedway. Sorry, Eric Estep. But the NASCAR Xfinity Series makes their annual second date too. Actually, first date this year. I'm sorry. The NASCAR Xfinity Series makes their trip to Texas Motor Speedway this upcoming weekend. Who is going to win that race, you might ask me? Well, for my pick for that race, I am going to go with a driver who has been really solid as of late, and he just won at Kansas, and he's actually a past winner at Texas in the Xfinity Series. He won here back in 2021 for Joe Gibbs Racing. So, for my Texas pick, I'm going to go with John Hunter Nemechek. Still the most dominant driver in the Xfinity Series as of right now. If it's not him, it's Austin Hill. But John Hunter Nemechek is just on Cloud 9 as of right now. He's continuing to be on that Cloud 9 after he finished third at Bristol. So why not get a win and lock himself into the next round of the playoffs? So yeah, John Hunter Nemechek is my pick to win at Texas. Then we get into the Cup Race Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. 500 miles at Texas Motor Speedway. Ew, I know. But, who is going to win the Texas Motor Speedway playoff round of 12 race? I know I can't talk. So I really looked at the drivers who I think are going to win, and I really think that it's no easy contest as to who to pick, because this driver, he's been, not only him, but the manufacturer as a whole has been dominant as of late, and why not, pick him again? Well, not pick him again, I'm sorry. I've looked at, the past few finishes of the round of 16, and he won at Bristol, so why not pick him again? So for my Texas pick, I'm going to go with the 11 of Denny Hamlin, ladies and gentlemen. I just think that Denny Hamlin has so much momentum right now, even though that some of the finishes inside the round of 16 don't depict that. Denny Hamlin is still a fast driver. He is still one of the fastest cars week in and week out as of right now. And Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole, as of late, I forgot to mention, Christopher Bell, the whole entire round of 16, he was sitting on the pole. At Bristol, Ty Gibbs had his best performance of the year, led 102 laps and finished fifth. So Joe Gibbs Racing has been really, really dominant as of late. And of course, you have Martin Truex Jr., who, even though he struggled in the round of 16, he made it to the round of 12 when it matters most. So it's a complete reset of that round, and he can just focus forward and hope that the same thing does not happen again. But obviously, the most dominant driver at that team as of right now is just Denny Hamlin. Back in July, it was Martin Truex Jr. Now it's Denny Hamlin. No contest whatsoever. So yeah, for my Texas picks this weekend, I have a Joe Gibbs Racing sweep. John Hunter Nemechek on Saturday, and Denny Hamlin on Sunday. With all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Checkers or Wreckers podcast. That'll conclude the 31st installment of the show. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments on who you think will win this weekend's races, and how do you feel about other news. As always, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Carter Leonard, and this has been the Checkers or Wreckers podcast. And we will see you next week as we preview for the second race of the round of 12 at the bold Talladega Superspeedway. As always, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carter Leonard, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.